Hi, JC here with Real Estate Live Studios, where we talk about what's impacting the real estate industry here locally in Southern Nevada and all over the country. This week, we're going to have Mr. Bob Sluys on. We're talking about ecologically sound homes and green homes, green-built homes. Bob was an agent in the Las Vegas area for a number of years and recently moved up to Washington, the northwest area of the United States, which tends to be leading the country in green-built homes. He's established a website, a referral system. It's something, if you're a licensee, you're going to want to hear about. So, let's go right to our interview studios now, where we're going to interview Bob Sluys and find out what's going on in the green home market. Bob is from Washington State. Bob, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, JC. Glad to be here.
So we're going to talk about something today, Bob, that kind of everybody wants to know about, everybody wants to know more about, and it seems like it's politically the right thing to do. We're talking about green.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about it in terms of real estate, green real estate.
It's here to stay, you know. The problem is not everyone knows what it is.
Okay.
Agent,
Well,
buyer, seller.
Let's start with that, Bob. What is a green-built home? We're going to talk about your website too, but let's start with what's a green-built home?
You know, there's many incarnations, but ultimately a green home is one that has less eco-impact. It's more socially responsible as to using sustainable materials, recyclable materials, site development, non-toxic materials in the home. For example, low VOC paints, which we can talk about later. There's so much in a house that is potentially not a green thing. So the green builders now are saying buyers are demanding healthier environments. They want comfort. They want savings, energy efficient appliances, for example. So there's a lot of major components to the green home.
Let's cut to the chase, so to speak, on
Sure.
these green homes. If I want to buy a green home, or one of our clients wants to buy a green home today, does that automatically mean it's going to cost them a lot more money to save energy?
You know, that's one of the problems, I think, a hurdle we have to overcome. It's just not true. Statistically, a green home, because there's different levels of green homes, can cost upfront a little bit more. But if you amortize, and when I say a little bit, 2, 3, 4, 5% possibly.
Okay.
The key is more and more builders are building green, so when you do that, it brings the cost down, right? If they can buy in bulk, buy materials, build in bulk, it can bring the cost down. And as consumers are demanding the green component, not only will the price of the green home be cheaper up front, but in the long term, the savings that you get for energy, for your water bill, your gas bill, et cetera, in the long term, a green home is much more economically viable than a conventional home.
All right, let me ask a couple of questions. So if I'm working with some clients that want to buy a green home, let's talk about some of the major components. Do I concern myself, for example, with is the roofing likely going to be different?
It can be, but before we go there, I want to clarify that a green home in Seattle, where I'm at, actually needs a third-party verification. You can't, as an agent, just say, I got a home here, it's green. It could be painted green, and some people actually, there's been confusion. So it has to be certified. And on that certification checklist, there will be all the things that have been done to green the home will be designated. So you as an agent can now show your clients, here are all the green features of the home.
Okay, and
which makes it easier.
Sure. In Washington, what entity is it that actually certifies it as a green home?
We have the Master Builders Association of King County, which basically encompasses Seattle, which is our huge population center.
So right now, there's no standard per se across the country that would do this certification.
Exactly right. Every state has different standards based on the multiple, perhaps. You know, search fields could be eco-home, third-party verification, built green, LEED, which refers mainly to commercial and multifamily condo homes. LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. And it's a national government standardization for guidelines for building, like I said, commercial buildings or condo projects that fit the green profile.
What would be another major, we've talked about the roofing, we've talked about the insulation, what would be another major component that would make a house green or not green?
Energy efficiency, the appliances, Energy Star appliances.
So we're not just talking about the construction of the home, we're talking about the entire ecosystem, the entire footprint that house is putting off to the environment.
For example, site development's important. You just don't bulldoze a bunch of trees down. No, you maintain the integrity of the site. You orient the house to maximize the sun, depending on where you are in the country. Certain parts of the country, you don't want houses with windows facing south because you lose too much energy. That's huge as how you put your house on the site. Yeah. Rainwater collection, that's recycled. porous pavement on the driveway where the water doesn't run off and pollute the salmon streams or go in the sewer system and now goes back into the ground, thereby eliminating flooding. And it lowers your watering bill for your grass, collecting rainwater off the roof that you now use for landscaping uses. These are huge savings.
Well, let's switch for just a minute if we can, because I know that that you've got a website, and I went to your website. What's the website address?
BuiltGreenRealEstate.com.
Okay, so BuiltGreenRealEstate.com, and I think that we've got that up on the screen for you.
Okay.
Now, in going there and just looking at, for example, one of the pages here. As I looked at one of the pages, it came up and it said, "Are you looking for a green home?" And then I saw an area that said, "Search for green homes."
Right.
So tell us what you've got going on there. Is that relative to Washington State? Is that available all across the country? What's going on there?
You know, JC, that's a great question. That website has been in development for about a year. And the main reason being, traditionally, if a consumer, Joe Sixpack wants to find a house, he can go to any website for any agency, any brokerage, type in the part of town they want to be in, price range, square footage, bedroom, some basic criteria, and the results pop up. You can't search by green. At least in Washington State, you cannot type in your criteria and say, oh, by the way, I want a green home. That search doesn't exist. So I had to custom make this search, and in compliance with the MLS and, of course, the IDX provider up there. So now on my website, the only homes that show up are green homes. That's all I do. I don't do conventional real estate. I took a year off from my business to educate, to become an eco-broker. I got the designation to educate myself because I saw this coming down the road. It's mainstream, not yet, but it will be.
We talked about your belief that everything across the country is going to be going green.
Absolutely.
And if you want to be a real estate agent that is going to excel in that market, now is actually the time to get started.
Well, if right now you're an agent and instead of doing your yearly 18 deals, you're down to 3 or 4, you have plenty of time on your hands, okay, you should be farming and prospecting, all those things. However, at least understand the basic components because the whole society is being greenwashed, which is not always a good thing. Every product out there has a green component. Hertz has green rental cars. I mean,
how's that possible?
Well, they do because either they...
Because it's less damaging than...
Sure, it's a Prius or something, which,
sure.
is more, So it's here to stay. It's not going away. So as an agent, you owe it to yourself for your livelihood. You have to... I did it to get a market advantage and to have a niche market. Something, we have high-rise specialists, waterfront specialists, people specialize.
If you were going to give an agent a couple of recommendations, how to get up to speed and what to pursue in our last minute or two here, what would you tell them?
Well, the eco-broker is fine. However, so much of that is based on the eco part of it. The bottom line, I'm not going to pull any punches or paint a picture that's not true, but people are buying green for comfort, health, and savings. And the eco impact and the social, that's important, but it's not the main reason. So, the old adage, know thine audience, if you're going to be an agent, it's not what you want, it's what the client wants.
Sure.
And if they want a greenhouse and they can choose between someone that knows what a green is, that can get the certification checklist, that can look at the listing and do the homework and make sure that Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, this is a green home that you need to look at, could do that, because that's our job, is to educate and consult. Without that knowledge, we're dead in the water. My website, even though it's designed to generate leads for me as a business person, is chock full of tons of content. You can get lost on it. There is more information. I have something called Built Green University. It pretty much, if you spend a couple hours on there, you will know 80% of what I know about green in just a few hours, which is huge. At least you now have a good feel for what the business is all about.
Well, Bob, thanks so much for flying down here and meeting with us and sharing this. You seem pretty passionate about this whole green thing.
I am. I think it's important. If it's just one person doing it on their own by themselves, it's frustrating. But if everybody does just a tiny bit, no matter what it is, I think differences can be made.
Well,
I truly believe that.
This is awesome. Bob, I want to thank you so much for coming down here, and I want to reserve the opportunity to interview you again as we really move into this green era. Would you be willing to come back?
Glad to do it.
Bob, thanks so much for coming by. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.